All right, we are live. I just clicked the button to go live and it kept spinning while our countdown was going. It's like, oh more, like 3 seconds left, we were live. So
Oh no.
I'm pretty happy. It's working.
Good, good.
Good stuff.
We're here.
Welcome, Colby.
Thank you.
Have
Thank
we
you for
done
having me.
stuff like this before, like on stream? I don't think so,
Uh,
right?
I don't know. We've definitely collaborated over the years, but I don't know how often we've actually hopped on.
I don't think. Anyways, people, we have Colby here from Cloudinary. And so, did you just get promoted recently? What was your fancy title now?
So I'm the director of developer experience engineering at Cloudinary, and yes, thank you for acknowledging it.
Nice. Like sometimes you just need to like highlight these things because
Yeah, I appreciate that.
yeah, because these things it's really hard to figure out where in DevRel you can grow and what growth paths are and
Very true.
how business are you, how tech are you, and you're traversing that really well. So I just wanted to
Appreciate
highlight
that.
that.
Thank you.
So for the folks who don't know what Cloudinary is, I don't think there are many, but do you have like an elevator pitch you give someone like at a conference or something?
A little bit. So we're the image and video API for the web. And kind of what that means is we handle everything from upload and management to delivery. And once it's being delivered from Cloudinary, we can start to do things like optimization, transformation. So maybe remove a background or dynamically crop and resize based off what's in the actual image. But then we actually have some really cool AI oriented features right now, including image analysis. So trying to determine
Mhm.
what's in an image to maybe automatically tag an image or generate captions from that, which is really cool. And AI
Wow.
moderation, and the thing that I like about how we're really taking a dive into AI is we're really thinking about how it's going to help make your workflow more efficient as opposed to, some of the stuff you see out there. So
Yeah, you just
it's
slam some
exciting stuff.
AI on it, right? That's not
Right,
really
right.
it's not gonna
Yeah.
stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the early Cloudinary AI that wasn't really marketed much. I made a video on that because I had this thing where my image wasn't in the crop that I needed it. And
Yeah.
so I would just use Cloudinary AI to just, make it wider and just guess.
Yeah.
And that worked pretty well. The thing
Yeah.
is, it wouldn't remember because if you make the image 1 pixel wider, it would have another background. But things
Okay.
have
Yeah.
to grow, and this was a while back, though.
Yeah, but it's funny how times have changed, especially in the last year, because we've always had some interesting AI and machine learning
True,
features,
it
but
is.
now that it's become such a big hype, now it's marketed completely differently.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, you have to jump on. And you know what? I might be because I don't really know all the AI features you guys have, so we might actually go into that a little
Okay,
bit
sounds
at
good.
one point. Cool. So today, what I wanted to do is like because Cloudinary is like the API for media on the web, right? And so
Yeah,
I want to dive in a little bit. How do you then connect to all these systems? Because you don't really have a front end to showcase. You just have the output of the asset.
yeah, for
And
sure,
so we'll just have a look at how, for example, we integrate that with Cloudinary and Hygraph. But
for
then
sure.
also, there are so many people out there, and it's fine that they're there and think that way. But lots of people think an image is an image. Just whack it on.
Yeah, not quite
Even
like that.
now, in these days,
Yeah,
right?
it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Just a tiny bit.
Yeah,
The funny thing is, I came up when Cloudinary wasn't there, and we realized that like web was so slow, or we couldn't get stuff done. So I had all these like local grunt workflows that would then remember
mm.
grunt,
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
and we had gulp, so I could code a little bit more. That would then just like change my images on build, and it was holy crap, so much going on.
yeah,
And there's a bunch of that now. Again, when you look at like Gatsby image and Next image and stuff for
for sure.
mobile images,
Yeah,
but I used to build that myself, and we had like image magic and stuff. And then Cloudinary came, and my world changed.
yeah.
It's crazy.
And it's funny, there was a lot of, really creative and compelling solutions people were able to come up with and really helped, move the web forward from the media perspective. But,
Yes,
every time you add a new image, it starts to slow down your build and all that. So
exactly. All that.
it does have its effects.
Yeah, we really needed to do it because I worked, it was a PHP CMS kind of thing, but it was built for social media. So it was right when Facebook started, we built this thing, but we had a lot of people just uploading images, their own stuff. So you could never control what they would do.
Yeah.
So we had to build a bunch of things. And then we even, like a friend of mine, my colleague, he built a system where you could have a sort of an XML layer in which you could reference which images would be layered on top of each other. Like we did a few
Interesting.
Cloudinary-esque things
Yeah.
in 2008, 7. And I'm so happy we don't have to build this ourselves anymore.
Right. It's the tooling has come so far, and it's
It's
amazing what we
crazy.
can do now.
Yeah, exactly. So perhaps while we code a little bit and you can guide me through what we're doing, let's chat a little bit about, okay, so what is this? Why do I transform this image into like a different file format? Or
Mhm.
how does this optimization work? Or why do I need to crop for different things? What is a picture tag? Like all the things. So I want to kind of just make it not too complex with people because we could, between the two of us, overflow people with so much information about images they never want to touch it again. Let's not
Of
do
course.
that.
Yeah.
Let's not make it too awkward, but let's show why this is so powerful.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, let's see. You know what? We are only 6 minutes in, so we have like 55 minutes to do some coding. Like normally we talk a bunch. I'm going to just start with code today.
Let's dig in.
Yeah, man. This
We
is
have a
going to
lot
be
to
one of the.
explore, so it'll be good.
Oh yeah. And so one thing that I love about especially what you do with Cloudinary is you just started some open source stuff yourself.
Yeah.
And like, how do I render this image in Next.js? And now that I think that became the SDK now.
Yeah.
Or how does that work?
So it's officially in a community SDK. So the distinction is where the team that's basically supporting it. So we have our official SDKs, which come from the product team, but then we have the community
Yeah.
SDKs, which the developer experience team supports. In this case, right now it's me. So it kind of came from an idea where I saw Next.js just really, blowing up, and
Yeah.
I was a big fan of myself, so I thought it would be an interesting library to start to build something around. And they already had the image component, so it didn't really take too
Exactly.
much for me to create a nice little wrapper around it, and ultimately provide a better mechanism for delivering Cloudinary URLs. So the start of it came from there, which wasn't too bad, but then I just kind of kept pushing it and pushing it to see where I can go. And people
I
seem to
remember
like
you
it,
doing
so
unit tests and stuff for that URL compiler. That
yes,
was pretty rough.
yeah. Yeah, it's the thing with the API is like it's so powerful, but it's complex because the need to be able to handle all these different situations. So being able to capture all those in the API
Yeah.
with an intuitive SDK around it is a challenge.
Yeah. And so for the folks who don't specifically know, in Cloudinary, you have an API on the URL. And so, of course, you can set your transformations in like templates in the system also, but you can also do everything on the URL. And that makes things very cool. And I just clicked on one of those links. And so when I click on, let's say, React here, is this the stuff you worked on, or are those like the core libraries?
So those are the core libraries. The one that I worked on is the Next.js specific
So
one.
this one is yours, right?
And it looks like I have some dark mode issues there that I need to address. But
Interesting. Let me just, can I switch
hand
back?
wave that.
How do I switch?
There should be. I wonder if maybe on the homepage there's not a changer, but on the docs pages, if you click get started, there should be a changer at the bottom left.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. I need to fix that.
It's perfect. Yeah, and I knew Brian was going to say this, that and actually at Hygraph, we are kind of a light mode focused organization. We
Yeah,
also like
I'm pro light mode for browsing the web. Now my code editor is certainly dark mode, but
mine too. Yeah.
yeah, I find it easier to read personally.
It's yeah, this feels good, light mode in this, and our designers are really into the light mode as well.
Nice.
Okay, cool. This is something you built, which basically uses these core components bundled into awesomeness, essentially.
Yeah.
And so I guess it makes it super easy to kind of just, if I want to write an image tag, I'm just using next image and then say width, height, crop, and go. and do anything I want, right? I guess
Yeah,
that's
I mean, so for all intents and purposes, because it's a wrapper, like it should be
Mhm.
pretty much you're able to just swap, like it's a drop-in replacement. So you can change image
Cool.
to CLD image. The only difference is you should be referencing your public ID as the source. Now, technically,
Yeah,
you can
sure.
pass in a full Cloudinary URL, but it has to have a version number in that. And that's
Yeah,
simply
sure.
because it's very challenging to parse the URL without that version number due to how it's structured. So,
I've done that many times for
yeah.
Cloudinary when I made my own one. Like I would always say, I grab the ID, and then everything after is transformations, and the image ID, and then everything before is like my cloud ID and the rest of the URL.
Yeah,
You need that, I know.
the tricky thing is you could somebody could name a folder the same
Mhm.
name as a transformation, so
True.
you can't assume like where that split
Oh,
is. So that's why I require the
oops.
version number. So
Yeah,
to make sure
sure.
that I can confidently do it rather than it being like, maybe it'll work. So
The amount of
that's the
split
limitation.
0 and split 1 in this is big.
Yeah.
But this is cool, right? So
Yeah.
this is basically a drop-in replacement for the next image component,
Yep.
essentially. But then
Exactly.
all these props go to your like URL builder, and something awesome comes out.
Yeah, exactly. So I have originally this wasn't the case, but I abstracted the logic behind how I was actually creating the URL
Mhm.
with the intent that I would be able to take that and publish it into different frameworks, and that's exactly what we did. So
Yes, I
um,
did that one, but I did that in the next one, I think, as one of the
yeah,
the
yeah,
early ones.
Yeah, so Nuxt is a flavor that we currently support as well as Svelte, and they're relatively up to parity. We need to get a few extra updates on the Nuxt and the Svelte versions, but they support mostly all the same features, the same components, and hopefully we can add another framework sometime this year. But we'll see, and TBD on what that is. But I kind of already know what we're gonna do.
I think so too, but
Yeah,
that's fine.
yeah,
Most people will know. But this is cool because I like companies that are API first and that don't specifically have like, because you can use Cloudinary without an SDK. I've done that for years,
yeah.
which I like because it's super open. You can do whatever you like.
Yep,
But then DevRels come in and make these, developer velocity kind of things. Like DX makes it awesome. You're faster. You can do more. And
yeah,
I know my boss Brian is here in the chat, and we think the same way with that, and it's super cool that DevRels can do that. And
for
so,
sure.
yeah, like developer experience is huge for a developer-driven company in that sense.
Totally. And I think the interesting about that model isn't, I think some people might think that we can just kind of do whatever we want, and that's not necessarily the case. But
Eh,
one thing about some of that freedom is that we can experiment a little bit more. Since
yeah,
we're releasing these packages as unofficial, we can really try to see how people might want to interface with it in a completely different way, right? Where
exactly.
the SDK the API for this SDK is different than we see in some of the other Cloudinary packages. So,
Yeah,
are people finding that more compelling? Will that start to influence the official packages and so on? So,
yeah,
I think that's an interesting position that we are in.
yeah, and I'm very pro doing that because you will get probably pull requests from people from the community
Yeah,
that make your product better.
yeah. Right now, I have some dependency updates, but
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I was just
it's
checking. It's all you.
that's one of my favorite parts is being able to get that. And I'm really happy every time somebody submits something, and having something that I can go into Hacktoberfest with, for instance. That's a
Exactly,
lot of fun.
perfect.
And
Yeah.
it's amazing to see what kind of contributions people are willing to support this with.
And what I like about this as well is that if you do that for developers, they will tell their bosses use Cloudinary.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's the long game here. Because
yeah,
in the end, we all kind of have to sell, right? It's still startup land.
for sure. But being able to solve those problems is uh the most interesting part about it, and being able to do so in an intuitive way. So the easier we make it for somebody, the more compelling it's going to be.
Exactly. So I'm looking at a bunch of fun stuff here. I think we should just get going and have a look at what this all means
Let's
once
do
we
it.
have something running.
Yeah.
So I've done a bit of homework to speed everything up a tiny bit. So I just made a new project, and it's called Hygraph Cloudinary Live. And I can show you this in our new studio build, but when Colby and I were just looking at like saving the Cloudinary image that I had, it just wouldn't save. Let's see if that's still the case. Oh, now it's good. Okay, so we're going to stick with our new studio build because that's what most people will see. All right, so what we have done. Oh, there's an. Okay, Colby, when you live stream, would you press this or not?
I don't think so.
Right? We're living on the edge.
But no. Hey, I mean,
You know what? This is the cool thing, and I hope some folks of our product team are in here. We can just go back to the old studio or
that is nice.
One, and it just works.
That's nice.
We're living on the edge. It's cool.
Okay, let's do it.
So what we did in Hygraph, there's a new project, and I have just added like a simplest model because here it's really about how we integrate. And so there's a slug, there's a title, and there's an image. But this image is actually a Cloudinary integration. So when you look at the apps, I actually installed Cloudinary. And in there, the only thing you have to do is just add your cloud name and API key. So you can do a bunch of different things with Cloudinary.
That's easier than I remembered. I think the last time I touched it, you had to deploy your own version. So it's cool to see.
Yes, we have done a few pretty big updates, like our app interface and all that whole approach is a lot more mature now. You can still do it yourself. You can still run all the things if you wanted to make a custom one, but we have a bunch out of the box now.
Much easier. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. If we look at DAM, because we put Cloudinary there, apparently, you see there's a bunch of other ones also. And so all of those are like built either by us or by our partners. And so that works super well. Oh, I just did something very marketing-y. I like it. Why not?
There we go.
CTAs out of the way. Good. So I've just installed this. And so if you wanted to use, because I know Cloudinary pretty well, you could do it with only your cloud name. But when you add the API key, you can do a few more fun things. And so, oh, wait, Romina is saying something. Before it was possible only with the UIX. Yes, so that wasn't really like an app. It was like a custom field you would just make, and that's it. And now it's an app. So Cloudinary could actually have a bunch more now. We can actually give you Cloudinary a page where we can embed the DAM. I don't think that's the right use case, but you could.
Yeah,
but you can also have like the edit image now where you have the edit pop-up, and there's a whole bunch of other things you could do now with this.
That'd be pretty cool.
Exactly. And so I just made a page with a slug, a title, and I'm just selecting the image like this. And so, I clicked that away. So this is my personal Cloudinary account because that was easiest for me to install. So yeah, there's just a whole bunch of different images I could grab. I don't know why I clicked into this, but let's do this one. Oh, Colby, I do this all the time. This should not be blue. This should be blue.
I'll pass that back to my to the team. It's good feedback.
Okay, so I just select this and see if the save now works. It seems cool. Okay, so if you now have set this up, because this is all GraphQL, we have the bug. It now did not save. All right, it is what it is. We'll go back. Let's see if we now have the correct one. Oh, it did save actually.
Maybe it's just that state that hasn't.
There is a state there. Exactly. All right. So in our API playground, this is actually a page. So where the page with slug, Colby, give me the image, the slug, and the title. And so here you can see what we save for Cloudinary. So there's actually a whole bunch of stuff. So you could think we just store the public ID of something, but we actually just give you all the things that Cloudinary gives back. And I think you can even, if you in Cloudinary set up a bunch of like transformation, upload transformations and templates and stuff, they will probably also come back here.
Yeah,
that's
for
correct,
sure.
Right?
Yeah, and I think the thing that's interesting about storing the entire resource object is when you start to think about things about how you're going to actually implement the images, where you need things like the width and the height, which are critical for avoiding things like content layout shift.
Exactly, yes.
And we actually require it in the Next.js image component. So without that, you're kind of just guessing without having those values.
Yeah, and so width and height is super important in images. So browsers know what your aspect ratio is, and they can make space for you already based on whatever CSS you have as well. So you don't have the flickering. And you just said that a lot nicer. But you use the official terms. I just said it like how I feel about it. It flickers and it
Good
moves.
breakdown, yeah.
Exactly.
It's like when you go to a page and you see an ad pop in,
Yes.
then the whole layout shifts,
And we used to do all these like CSS trickery to make that work. Now you just give a width and a height to an image, and the
Yeah.
browser will do it for you.
That's great.
And so you get all that back. And here's that version number that we just talked about that we need. And there's a whole bunch of stuff. I personally don't understand why we not only get the secure URL but also the normal URL. But do you know why that is, or is it just legacy?
I think it's just for legacy purposes.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, this is a whole bunch of stuff, and the funny thing is, if we implemented this whole thing ourselves, we could use a bunch of these. But for now, we probably just need width, height, and the public ID of this image, because then the next tag will just do everything. Right, so let me show you how I did this in the code. Well, it's just a next app with the app router, or they call this the app directory, right?
App router, yeah.
Or app router, okay. So
it's a directory, but it gets you into the app router.
Oh, yeah. It is like I'm still learning Next as it is anyway. So when we look at the content here, so we have the title, slug, and the image. And so this title I just hard coded, but we can make that into the real title. So this is as empty as I could get this project, just so you don't get overwhelmed with a bunch of things you have to install. We didn't even install GraphQL tooling. I literally just post with fetch to the Hygraph endpoint, which is stored in an environment variable. And then you post your query and you get back your page. This is how empty I wanted this thing to be. And so here I typed in that title, but we can also just do this. And there it is, Colby.
Beautiful.
So we have established this works, and I'm assuming most folks watching this have seen this before. If not, the code base that I'm using is actually the Hygraph implementation guide. So let me show you that. Because my colleague Romina, who's in the chat, has actually worked really hard on that with our other colleague Lo. And so here we have a whole bunch of implementation guides that like the simplest you can get it, and this is how it works. So we have Astro, Next, and Nuxt. You have guides, and then you have different kind of starters with step-by-steps, and then there's a bunch of information here. So if you want to know more, go to our docs. All right, so we have the stuff. So Colby, what do I do next to actually render this image the most idealistic way that you can do it with your package?
Perfect. So let's open up the installation instructions just so that people can kind of visualize how we're going to walk through this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's pretty simple. We're going to install the next Cloudinary package. We're then going to configure an environment variable, which is going to be our cloud name.
Yep.
And then we're able to import the component and use it, start using it right away. So yeah, let's get started by installing that package.
That seems simple enough. Famous last words.
All right.
All right, so while this goes, let's grab this environment variable. Oh, that worked. Nice.
Perfect.
So we have one already, so we don't have to make anything new here. And now I always just have to, I never remember mine because somehow I never made it into my name or something. I could have done that, but I set this up so long ago. I don't even remember when my account started, probably like 2016 or something.
And you haven't memorized it already?
No, but I use it like every day. Maybe this is showing my age, but would you memorize this? It's not fun, right?
What we got? Dwarf, conf, nerd?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. That kind of fits.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I just start my server again and we're off to the races.
Yep. So yeah, now let's get started actually importing it. So if we head to that to your page file.
Sure.
Now we'll want to, if we're going to look at the instructions, we can go to the CLD image basic usage, but ultimately we're going to import the CLD image component from Next Cloudinary.
All right. Oh, I imagine it's like this.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, look,
CLD
it
image.
already knows.
Perfect.
Nice.
Yep. Now, the one caveat with using CLD image right now in the app
Mhm.
router is due to limitations on how I've not been able to solve opting this into a client component without adding the flag for it. We need to add the use client at the top.
I was
Now,
expecting something like
yeah.
silly like that.
Yeah. So what I recommend though is when you're building it in your application, you can create a really simple wrapper around it. And I even
Mhm.
have an example in the documentation for how you can do that. That way you can import that in and you never have to use the use client if you're in a server
So
component.
you make a component where you say use client, import the thing, and return the same children or
Exactly.
whatever.
Exactly. And you can
So,
even import the types from the package so that you
oh,
can
that's cool.
type out the props and not have to worry about that as well.
Right.
Yeah.
But let me ask this annoying question. What if I don't have JavaScript? Does that mean because nobody has JavaScript until it loads? So there's no image rendering? How does that work?
So my understanding is that the client components will still do a pass on the
Ah,
server. It's just
okay.
the difference in then providing that extra layer of hydrating
Okay.
that particular piece on the client.
So that means if I say use client, this little chunk will be hydrated on load and others just won't be, but they all are SSR first.
Yeah, that's my understanding. And what use client
Okay.
is actually doing is providing, I forget the terminology that they use, but
Mm.
it's creating a boundary in the compiler for how it's actually splitting it up. So
Oh
once we
yeah,
use that,
like a comment or something.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
but yeah. Sorry, go on.
but yeah, no. So now that we have the image component, we can start using it. So
Exactly.
if we scroll down, the required props is going to be your sorts, width, height, and alt.
So,
I see what you're doing there.
oh yeah, you know where I was going with that, right? Yeah, I'm so in the view world, it's crazy. Page dot image, but then we kind of need to figure out.
So that'll be public ID, right?
But where? Ah, no, this one. We
Yep.
do have it. So do we just do? Let's just do whatever this image is giving us for now,
Yep.
because we might want to change that up later. Like if we
Totally.
want to
Yeah.
crop something, for example.
Yeah. Let's just get it rendering for now.
Exactly.
And then alt is also a required prop, which comes
I
from the
love that.
Next.js image component, but
Yeah,
I fully support the idea behind requiring the alt value.
completely agreed. The thing is, though, I'm not sure I filled out that in
The caption.
Cloudinary.
Yeah.
Likely not. So for now, I will just use the page title.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Kids, don't do as I do, do as I say. This is not good. Add an alt tag, please. But we have to render something, right?
Yep.
I'm excited. Let's see. Loading. Takes a little long. What's happening? Whoa. Oh, I know.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, so I didn't think about that as a little.
Well, because I'm querying. So let's just make the component then.
Yeah. So let me double check what page it's on, but it should be right in the documentation.
Oh, cool.
I think it's So if you go to Next.js 13/14 in the left sidebar,
Yeah.
So if you scroll down, there should be a little
I'm just going to
snippet.
copy this. Yeah,
Yep.
perfect. The fact that you need this in your docs makes me slightly unhappy.
I know, me too.
But it's one of those transformational moments, like in 2 months, 3 months, this will not be an issue anymore. I'm hoping.
I hope so. I've spent a ton of time trying to figure this out, but part of the issue is having to have an image component that supports both the pages router and the app router. And
Yeah.
I haven't quite figured out how to configure the project to allow me to do that while being able to support all the features. So it's I keep getting close, but then I keep hitting speed bumps. But one day I'll get it so that
Exactly.
I won't have to do this.
And did I do this right? Should components be outside of app?
So it's really your preference. I prefer to have it outside of app, but some people do prefer to have components inside like that. So I wonder why you're getting
It is not happy with something. Refers to a value, but is being used as a type here. Did you mean type off.
Do
Oh, but you,
notice
you
the
loaded it
notion?
as this, right?
Yeah.
This should do it. It somehow doesn't think you're using it.
Do you think
Wait.
maybe you're the TypeScripts?
Oh, how often have you done that? VS Code. Here we go. Oh my God, it's always the same.
Yeah. Okay, good. I was worried that my snippet was
Oh,
going. Oh, it's still showing.
no, it's not happy.
Are we missing something?
Here, so this refers to a value, but it's used as a type. Did you? But it's really not. Oh, I did TS. Do I need to do TSX?
Yes, that's it. It
Ah,
needs to be TSX. Yeah. Good catch.
my bad.
That's definitely
Oh, look
happened to
at
me
that.
before. I spent so much time trying to figure that out.
And look
Yeah,
at the TypeScript coming through.
there we
All
go.
the things we can do. I like it.
Perfect.
Whoa, 71 more. Nice.
Yeah, I
Right.
know. You know, the interesting thing is like part of like the best practice of components isn't to go overboard with props, but that's kind of a challenge because of the amount of features that we want to be able to
Exactly.
expose with the component, right? And it's not like everybody's going to use every single component or prop at once, but being able to expose the ones that are going to make sense for them is important.
Exactly. Yeah, and this is Cloudinary has almost too many.
It's that's part of the challenge. It's because there's so many features. It's hard to kind of pull some of those really deep, amazing ones out.
I've
with
done
all the
some
other ones.
ridiculous things with Cloudinary, where like solution engineers and I would just sit together like, how do we solve this thing? And then we come up with something that you will never have in a prop here.
Yeah.
But like we had this one use case. I love to tell this sometimes, where we had a super fancy high-end luxury brand that had 15 years of images for products with like from earrings to watches to bags, all the things. But over the years, they had an army of interns kind of photoshopping these images together with layers and then adding fake shadow. But for the new design we did a few years back, these shadows they were just horrible. We should not, we wouldn't need those. We didn't want those. So we had like 5,000 or something, 6,000. So we all uploaded them into Cloudinary, and we had 2 or 3 URL schemes that just looked into the Photoshop file, removed something, centered it, made sure the padding and margin, all the things were like correct.
Wow.
And I think they had in mind a budget of hiring like a bunch of Photoshop people to do it. And I think we solved it in like 3 days.
That's crazy. I still
Right,
haven't played around, like all my time here, like to the point of the features, all my time here, I still haven't played around with Photoshop files. And
it's
I imagine
crazy,
there's
dude.
amazing things you can do. Yeah.
Yeah, we went pretty deep into the product team when we did that one.
That's amazing.
But like, if you can use an external tool, even in the free tier, to do that in a few days versus a few months, it's ridiculous, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Think about the time you'll save on the other problems, right?
Exactly. And we had a lot of other problems, so it was all good. Okay, so are you kidding me?
Did you remove use client?
I did.
Yeah. Maybe restart the server.
Yeah, it feels like we need to do that because the whole, you see
It can
there's a
be
bunch of new
a little
stuff.
buggy here and there.
That's fine. The amount of time
The
next
component, the app
week was
router, to be
okay.
clear.
Are we good? Okay, so it's really not happy.
I wonder why you would get that. Do you want to try commenting out the component just to see?
Yes. So I loaded it like this, and so when I go here, it is actually that thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so it might not even be that. You see, we're basically just learning live on stream. This is my favorite part.
Absolutely.
Unless we solve. Like
try to one thing. This is assuming that we don't have a bug. You can remove the next directory, the .next directory, locally.
Oh, one of those. Yeah, exactly.
And then restart the server to see if perhaps there was a little weird thing there.
Yeah, that has happened before. I agree.
Part of the issue with the app router is there's still some of those little kinks here and there, and that's assuming that it's that and not the component or something.
Before, when we didn't have any of this, it worked fine. So I'm wondering what's happening.
Yeah.
What did we do? Here, it also says it's out of date, but I'm not sure that's the problem here. Okay, so when we didn't have this at all, it worked fine, right?
Yeah.
Could it be the components directory? Anyone in the chat, if you know? Okay, we're back to where we were. So what is going on with this? Unexpected end of JSON input, JSON parse. You know what? Maybe. Oh no, but we're not actually parsing here anything here. I wonder if we actually get back information from Hygraph. Maybe
I was about to say, can you confirm that the fetch response is coming back?
Yeah, so this is coming back.
Data page image. I wonder if you're missing the property on the, because didn't you change the structure a little bit? I wonder if it's.
Yeah, well, what we should probably do is have a look at okay, I am actually allowed to read all the things on the published locale, on all the locales. So how about I just also do drafts? So we're 100% safe. We can query everything. Then we have an endpoint. And let's see if I actually have the right endpoint. Did we screw something up here, perhaps? Yep.
That's
it.
There we go.
Come on.
The joy of programming.
The joy of fat fingers on a keyboard and a live stream.
The struggle's real.
Yes. Okay, let's see. Yep. It's still awesome. Not super happy.
I think that so the fast refresh, you can see the line that's from the previous.
It's from the previous one.
So sure. Yeah, so the console log was maintained.
That's kind of nice that they have that.
Yeah, fast refresh is fantastic.
Almost
right. There we go. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic. Awesome. So what you see, of course, is the image, but what you don't see, which is a good thing, is that this is actually an optimized image. So not only are we delivering that image, we're opting you into safe defaults to try to deliver it as performant as possible.
So which is basically what you do here, right?
In the URL. So starting with the F-auto, Q-auto. So the F-auto is going to say, let's determine the most efficient format that we can deliver this image in based off of the device and the browser that you're visiting it in. So if you're in Chrome, Safari, whether you're on a desktop or your phone, that might have a different support for those modern formats. So that'll be dynamically returned based off of that device and the browser. Now, Q-auto is the compression layer of it. So it's going to try to compress it as much as possible while retaining the visual quality. So that's part of the differentiator with Cloudinary compared to some of the other compression solutions, is that we focus entirely on the visual quality, as that's a critical component of selling a candle or makeup or whatever that is. We want to make sure that we retain all that critical detail.
Yeah, and so is the Q-auto, it kind of also looks at what is my file type, right, that F-auto chose. Because maybe a WebP is different in its optimization versus like an AVIF or something, right?
That's a good question. I don't actually know that answer. Yeah.
And also, if it sees like a big white chunk, like what we see on this one, does it then say, okay, I'm just going to optimize a little bit harder on different parts of the image? Or is it, I wonder if that's smart.
You're asking some good questions that I've never been asked before. Those are good questions. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. Good questions though.
I've been told this sometime, like especially Q-auto has a bunch of presets inside it also. Yeah. And when because I had to work at one point for yet another luxury brand that didn't choose Cloudinary in the end because the image of the watch wasn't sharp enough based on Q-auto.
Interesting.
Which is super. I couldn't see it,
yeah,
but apparently they could, and they went with another system that just didn't optimize as well.
Wow. Well, the interesting thing is, within the last few months, I think it was this year, we released Q-auto 4. So we're using AI in the backends to, and not just as a fluffer, like we're using AI to kind of determine how well we can compress these images and just, provide an even better mechanism around that.
This is where AI is going to shine, I guess.
Yeah, I think the most compelling use cases of AI that I've seen so far is not necessarily the generative. The generative is interesting and visually appealing, but the analysis angle of it is where I see the more compelling workflow efficiency gains.
Exactly. So now it kind of rendered it super big here because we kind of set it like, I think it's even going to like 3000 in its width or something. It's like super big. But the
Yeah.
image is kind of, we might not have chosen the right image because it feels like the source is not super high quality.
Hmm.
But it is what it is. It's a
Yeah.
good
It's okay.
start at
Yeah.
least. Yeah.
It's okay.
So what it did now is it made an image, it loads it lazy, and oh, it's 1080 by 1080. But of course, it makes a source set.
Yeah.
And so, do you want to attempt explaining source sets, but not? We could spend an hour, but maybe we shouldn't.
Yeah, so source set is going to give you the ability to define a list of URLs that the browser will ultimately choose based off the
Yeah.
conditions. Now, traditionally, what we see here by default, the Next.js image component, which I inherit the capabilities of,
Yeah.
will generate a 1 times and a 2 times image. So, one that's depending on if it's Retina or not.
Yeah.
Now, then the sizes, which usually correlates with it. Which I get maybe you don't need sizes for the 1x and 2x.
For
But
1x and 2x, no, but for the
no.
other, yes.
Okay. So sizes is what helps you control and help the browser determine what to pick it. So for this one, it's
You
just
can
saying if
actually
you
do
have a
that, right?
Retina or not.
Sorry, go on. Yeah, so
Yeah.
if it's a Retina screen, you're just going to load it like twice as big,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess.
Exactly.
But I don't think this image has this size though, because it's 1080 by its normal width. So
So sure. Sorry.
yeah, no, so Cloudinary is just kind of liberal with it. So even though you make it 3800, because probably it's C limit, it doesn't actually scale it up, right?
Exactly. So, that's an interesting question. On one hand, I was talking to Eric Portis about this, about what would be the correct move to do. On one hand, it doesn't make sense to scale up the image because then Cloudinary is doing that unnecessary scaling where
Yeah.
um, so that's why we're using C limit. So what it's going to do is it's going to only scale it up to the actual image size and it won't go
Mhm.
beyond that. But what's happening is now the browser is going to be the one that actually upscales that. So it's depending kind of how you look on it, whether Cloudinary should do that upscaling, if we allow you to do that upscaling and so on. But ultimately, I was thinking that it probably doesn't make sense for Cloudinary to unnecessarily upscale it
It's
on
costs
our end.
compute, I guess. So
That too,
yeah,
but yeah,
exactly.
we're making an assumption for
Yeah.
that image that's
Because
just
when
going to
I
distort it.
implement Cloudinary myself, I never add the C limit because I won't do this. But that's
Yeah,
just me because I'm a geek.
yeah,
But I imagine this could be like sizes property. And so the sizes essentially explains to the browser on this screen width, my image is going to be this big, right? And so in
yeah,
this case, it's like 95% or something of the screen.
yeah,
So we can actually do, I'm not sure exactly how this would work in next image. Like I could do this, and then it means it's always the same size as the screen.
yeah. I usually just do that for demonstration purposes, but you can
So
get
let's
as
you can
granular
see
as
how it
the
changed it
yeah.
now, right?
Yep. So
So
now what's going to
let's do
happen
95.
is it's going to generate all those different sizes so
Yeah,
that the browser can ultimately determine what size makes the most sense for the actual
exactly.
browser size.
And so where this becomes extremely awesome is that basically you're like, and this is where, in my opinion, like the next image and the next image and all these like image implementations by meta frameworks simplify the thing a little bit. So they cover like the 85% of people. But actually, if you do something that's slightly more complicated because you have an art director that wants to do insane things, you can actually say, my source set is going to be relatively big because there's lots of different source set items I can use, right? So I have a 640, I have like a bunch of different ones. So Cloudinary will on the fly render all of those. And then based on the sizes prop that looks at my like query, like media queries, I can say on this screen size or when it's Retina or whatever, I want the image to be this big. And on that one, it's going to be this big. And then the browser gets to choose from the source set which is closest, essentially. And it's so complicated to even just explain this, but
Yeah.
it gives you lots of cool options.
Yeah, and for this particular example, the biggest thing is simply performance. If
Yep,
you're loading
100%.
a phone, you don't need a 3840 width image. So it's only going to load the lowest one that matches that width of the browser. So that's going
Exactly.
to really help people have to consume less bandwidth.
And interestingly, it will load the biggest one it can find for your context. And so when you then start like resizing, it's starting to load different images. Anyways, this is something that comes out of the box with Next Image. It's
Yep.
Cloudinary has a few things like this as well, right? With like your browser hints and stuff, but maybe that's too deep for this stream.
Yeah, yeah. Client hints are interesting.
Client hints,
I don't.
sorry.
I
That's
don't think um, the browser community is quite there yet
no.
to have broad support, but it's a pretty compelling feature.
I made a video on it. It has 30
It's a
views.
great
So
video.
I don't think so.
It's. I just don't think that I don't think enough people know about it. To be
Yeah.
honest, yeah.
Anyways, that's basically, just to keep it short, your browser can send a few headers to a server saying, this is my browser size and this is my context. And then the server can say, oh, based on that, let me give you the best image. And then you can even say to Cloudinary, because Cloudinary is quite clever, you can give it a few extra options that say, well, don't render like if I resize my browser pixel by pixel, don't render like 100 images. Just grab like a media query and render the one in between. Just give me a few back. It's super cool, but
Yeah.
maybe in a few years people will use that, and then we'll
Hopefully,
never
yeah.
have to think about this again.
Yeah, and there's another option. Is it sizes auto, if I remember correctly? Eric
Oh,
Portis
really?
was telling me about it. It's I think it's something that's coming somewhere.
Like this?
We don't support it. I don't believe
All right.
it's well. I'm guessing Next Image Component doesn't support it, but it's something that I believe is coming down the line that should be even more interesting for automating this process.
Exactly. So let's have a look at the stuff we can do, because we're like, we have 15 minutes, and now let's do
Yeah.
some fun stuff of what you can do with this image tag. And for the last 2 minutes, I'll show you a little demo of something that I took that to like the extreme with one of my projects. But for now, what are the most like interesting use cases for stuff like this?
So I think the most basic one that usually is the most compelling is the dynamic cropping and resizing. So
Sure.
one example that I like to use, particularly with e-commerce, is imagine you want to just show all the images in a grid, but all the images are different widths and heights.
Mhm.
Landscape, portrait. And that kind of looks a little wonky as it's going down. And you don't want the creative team to have to cut out every one of those images.
Yeah.
So we can automate that process completely. And this image is already in a square, so maybe we can use a different shape to kind of
Yeah,
illustrate.
let's just grab another image.
Okay.
Actually, I probably have done that use case a few times, so I think I actually probably have the right images for that folder. Let's see.
And try to grab one, if you can, where the subject is on like the left or the right side of the image. And
Oh
we'll see why
yeah,
in a
exactly.
second.
I think I did it with like this.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, but this is not enough, right? Because
Um,
because they're all kind of the same, but this was one of those fashion
yeah.
shows, and then we would like square them up and do stuff. But let's see if here, I think these are even Cloudinary assets from back in the day. This also doesn't work, I think.
Maybe that purse would be a good one. Or yeah, it doesn't matter. But
Let's do this one.
yeah,
Let's have
or
a look.
shoppable bag.
I used that for a shoppable video demo.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
That's a
we
really
haven't
cool
even talked
feature.
about video yet, man. This
Yeah.
this could be like a long stream.
And the nice thing is a lot of these features are available for video as well. The same dynamic
Yeah.
cropping and resizing is available for video.
All right.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. So the very first thing is we want this image to be a square, right? So
Yeah.
how can we do that? So if we head back over to the code, now at this point, you're either going to want to calculate the image width and height if you want to get the true one, but typically you try to just find a width and a height that makes sense. I like to get the biggest width and height that I can find in my on the page, since ultimately it's going to be responsively sized.
Let's do something
But
like this,
yeah,
right?
that's
500 or
perfect.
something.
Yeah. But then what we're going to do is we're going to add an additional prop of crop, which we're
So
going
do
to.
I do this?
Yep, that's perfect.
So in React, in this case, should it be like this because it's a number? Or
So it does. It really depends on the library that you're using. I'm forgiving in this, so I'll
nice.
let you use a number or a string because people have different preferences. So I
Exactly.
don't want to require a certain one. But now, so we have it resized, but what it's not doing is we're not going to automatically assume that you are trying to resize that.
Exactly.
But the width and height is only going to be used for the image tag itself. But now we need to actually tell Cloudinary that we want to crop the image. So let's add a prop of crop. And to start, we can just use the string of fill, and I'll get to the object in a second here.
Oh, so let's not do the object first.
Oh, well, that doesn't matter. What you were going to do is fine. But yeah.
Or this should also do it, right?
This should be good, yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, cool. So it now made it square and just fills up to whatever size we set it, I guess.
Exactly. And the nice thing is, generally speaking, I think the focal point is a little challenging here because of the contrast of the strings on the side, but it's going to crop it based off of the subject of the image. So if you have an image, like a wide image where the person's on the right-hand side, it's automatically going to crop to that particular position.
Let's see if we can find one, because that actually makes a ton of sense to show that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to open some stuff. Yeah, I think I have something here. Yeah, those are all in the same, like maybe something like this.
Yeah, maybe. It doesn't hurt to try.
Oh, here we have two people, or this one.
Yeah, let's give that one a try.
Oh, I keep clicking the wrong button.
I'm definitely going to pass that feedback.
At one point, it was probably a business goal to have people upload. There we go. Okay, so it centered it on me for sure. Oh, you're muted, Colby.
Sorry. So what Cloudinary is going to do is, using AI, of course, we're going to automatically determine where the subject of the image is, and then we're going to frame that crop based off of that. Now, that's something that you typically have to opt into, but with the CLD image component, we're automatically opting you into that. Now, what's happening, if you want to just open up that image quick in your browser, just to show the URL.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So the reason that's happening is the gravity properties. So we have a G_auto, which is saying that we want to automatically set the gravity to that subject.
Oh, that's this one. Exactly.
Yeah. So if you can just do it in the browser here. If you change auto to center, which is the API default, which you can set with the gravity prop if you prefer, but just for illustrative purposes.
Oh yeah. So now I went to the left, basically.
Exactly, because now it's not centered within that frame.
So we could do something like this as well.
You put east, yeah. So it's basically compass directions. So you had north, east, south, and west, and that's going to determine the top, right, bottom, left side of what you anchor the image to. Nice.
Yeah, so this is already like, especially the auto one. Can you? I think you can do this as well, right? Faces.
Yep. Though I wonder if you need the add-on enabled. I don't think for the only thing with this is because it's not cropped in, or it's not zoomed in enough, like you're not going to see as much, but it's still going to center it to the face.
But if we don't have fill, but we do crop, it will zoom it, I guess. Oh, interesting.
So the way that's going to work is crop is going to take the original dimensions, and it's literally going to just take that width and height.
Oh, that's square from wherever you started. Basically.
Yeah, where fill is going to try to fill the available space of the width and height that you provide.
Yeah, so we could potentially show that off here when we're in the app, and I just here. So here, if I did crop, would that re-render? I'm not sure.
It does, but it doesn't show any re-rendering until it actually updates. But we can see that update.
So that worked. And so I think what we could probably do is this now. Wasn't it something like this?
Yeah. So the tricky thing with Cloudinary, or the way that I'm constructing these URLs to give an intuitive interface here, is you have the problem where the way that the crop is by default set is at the end of the URL. Now,
Yeah.
if you're just doing this, that's completely fine. But when you start to add other transformations, particularly ones that include relative sizing, you're going to have all those relative sizing first, and then the crop.
Oh, yeah.
And then as you have those responsive images, it's going to show different images based off of those relative sizing.
Yeah.
So to prevent that, we can instruct the image to crop based off of the source of the image. So what we can do is we can specify a source of true. So the source property of true, and then the type of crop. So it would be the type property for this one.
Oh, sorry. Of course, because we're in the crop.
Yeah. And then whatever you want. Now, I think one that we could demonstrate this with is thumb. So if we change thumb, and then maybe if you just kind of resize the browser a little bit after that loads. Hopefully this demonstrates it properly.
I'm not sure.
It might take a second to load in. Maybe not. But so depending on the size.
Wait, something happened here.
Exactly. So because it's trying to create a different crop based off of a smaller or larger size. Exactly. Cool. So that creates an issue though, because with responsive sizing, your image should be the same no matter what.
Yeah, so
I think it was just catching up on the re-rendering.
It was catching up a little bit, yeah.
But we saw the effects of what could happen if you're not opting into the source. Unless we have a bug here.
This is interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure
what's going on. Because of the sizes prop, but also width and height, it's a little bit.
So that's what this should be solving. Can you well, I can debug that later.
Yeah, all good.
But ultimately, that's what that should be solving.
Cool.
Is that we crop first, and then we provide the responsive sizing after. I'll have to look into that. But I think maybe the rendering was just catching up.
That's what I think, because at one point when I do a shift command or an uncache, something is sometimes, oh, you see, it's
that's weird.
But it might be due to the fact that the sizes is set to this and the width and height is set to this, because this now actually is not correct with that. So maybe that's what's going on. Well, you see, immediately it changed.
Yeah, I'll try to see if I can reproduce that.
Images are hard, folks.
It is, but hopefully it was just stuck in the application. But
that's what I'm assuming.
Yeah. So so false isn't really going to do anything. It'll then just apply it to the ends. But that's where you can have different resulting images based off of the browser. But let's since we're running out of time, maybe we can show like a couple of the more visual features as well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So like if we go to the documentation page, you can go to the CLD image examples. And that's just a good opportunity for anybody to kind of scroll through and see the available features. Now you can remove the background, but it requires the backgrounds.
Oh, that's like an add-on, right?
Yeah. So if you don't have that enabled, we can't do that right now. But we can do things like generative fill, generative color. Then we have some more practical effects, like just simply blurring something. We have image overlays, and from here we can kind of just whatever you're feeling like trying out, we can give a try.
Okay, I'm just gonna have a look. I want to do the generative fill.
Okay. The thing I like to say is for this use case is thinking about uncropping an image. So when you crop an image, you're losing data of the image that you're cropping. So the fashion models, for instance, that you were showing earlier, if you crop that, you're ultimately going to lose those models in some way because of how narrow that frame is. But if you uncrop it or expand it, you're not going to lose that data and going to just still be able to provide a visually interesting image.
We're going to use that one. And you know what? In my video that I did on this, I used these models.
Oh, you did? Nice.
Yeah. I think that's why I have them. Where did I find that? Looks. Right, takes a sec to load it in, I guess. Or not. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. So whenever you load an image from Cloudinary, it's going to be processing that image on the fly. So the first
Exactly.
request might take a few seconds because image processing takes a few seconds depending on what it is. But ultimately, once that image is processed, it's going to be cached and then delivered from the CDN. So it'll be lightning fast after that.
So now this would make it square, right? Oh yeah, okay, so this is still working, but this is not really what we're doing here. So let's have a look at what we would need. So we say crop is bad.
Yeah, and we can start that just to kind of visualize what we're doing. Where what the crop of pad is going to do is it's basically going to add empty space to still give you that 500 by 500 image without removing or whatever size image. It's going to add empty space so that you're still able to get that size. I think it probably makes sense to retain a square since the image is portrait.
Yes, I'm just going to add a few things so we have the defaults in play.
Okay.
So I just made it that it was actually a standing image, and now we're making it a like a horizontal image. It's
So
going to
I think
be.
you need to swap
Oh,
those then, right?
I need to swap those
Yeah.
over. Yeah, so we're going to be wide, like 3 times wider than the height. But
Yeah.
originally the image is not like that, and of course we're going to need that fill background prop. Let's see what the AI will give us, what magic it will play.
And I should note that the generative AI capabilities are still in beta. So
Always good to say that.
Yeah.
So it is rendering. It has a. What's happening? I'm just opening it in a new tab just to have a look.
So this one, the generative processes, they take a little extra time.
Of course.
But because it just generally the models do any AI that you use for generative processing typically is going to take a little longer.
Oh,
But
this
again, once it
takes longer
happens,
than I'm used to. Ah, there it is. This one already has it. But dude, how good is this? This is crazy.
that's pretty cool. And something that's interesting about this, I like to think about is imagine that you want to have an image on your like a homepage banner or something, and you
Exactly.
want to use this image. You don't have to and you don't have the rest of the crop to fill that space, right? Like you can use this, maybe then add some text on the right hand side of it, and now you have a banner that you can easily use.
Yeah, so if I did it like this, we don't add it and we just do fill.
Exactly.
It's going to be pretty horrible, I guess. Oh, it probably zooms it in a ton on his face and then make it super wide. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily look bad, but it's kind of
No.
defeating the purpose of showing the entire model, right? Like for these images, we want to make sure the entire model
Yeah,
is
look
shown.
at that. This is great. So now that we kind of have seen all these like variables and stuff you can do, Colby, I'm not sure you've seen the thing I've done, but it broke my brain, but it worked. Let me show you something.
I've seen some of the stuff. I
You
don't know
you
if I've
might have
seen
seen this one
Oh,
actually.
I've seen it. Yeah, it's fantastic.
I think just like let's try this one. Oh no, this is not the best. This one is still relatively simple. Oh yeah, this one. So what
Nice.
you see here, like the browser doesn't even want to render the URL. Like it's crazy. And so the background images, these 4 are dynamic, these actually come from Hygraph and not from Cloudinary. They're fetched in.
Nice.
And then you have the album art also coming through Hygraph into Cloudinary. This image is me because I logged in with Supabase. And then the mashup and these extra little bits are just overlays. And so in this one, I'm not really writing anything with Cloudinary, but there's lots of stuff going on here. And so I can maybe quickly show that code just for like, we don't have to learn it, but just look at what that looks like. It's a little intense. But that's what you can do with Cloudinary if you have dynamic data. It's
Yeah.
actually pretty ridiculous.
And the point is, so you didn't touch on what's actually happening. So people are voting for that, and that
Yes,
image is generated based off of the votes, right?
exactly.
Yeah. So
Where
that could
did I?
be any album art that's being sit on top of it.
Whoa, something is. I think it's in like here. Let's see. Oh yeah, here. So this is creating the mashup image. So I'm actually using your URL
Nice.
concatenator thing here.
Nice.
And so I'm finding the songs for that user. And you see there's the public ID thing. That's basically Cloudinary. And then there's a bunch of different ones, and I sometimes have to parse some stuff out because AC/DC with its slash inside breaks.
Interesting. Okay.
There's a few things like that. So it figures out the song and a bunch of things. And so I have a background that I just start with, which is black. I fill it up. And then I add overlays. And then so I find the public ID, and then I have and then you're positioning it, you're adding some effects. I'm like making it less, like opacity is less. And then you have them. These are like the 4 things, like northeast, and then we have the northwest, and you kind of just build the whole thing up. You could do this in the next image tag that we just looked at.
Yeah,
you don't want to do it that way. You probably want to do it in JavaScript or TypeScript, that is. You see, I'm even adding like borders and stuff.
It's super cool.
And then you see that it constructs it, puts it in with my cloud name, and then it returns. And then, so the other one I had is the 199 one. Here, I actually write, I just voted, and then this is dynamic data.
That's awesome.
So this information of what you voted for is coming through the API in the database. And so I rendered this in a custom font also. So Cloudinary,
and these can be shared on social. I don't know if you had that set up, but like you can really easily.
This is the OG image.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So the ID is this. When you actually share your mashup, I won't share it now, but it actually. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's loading the preview now. Would be nice if it worked, right?
Yeah, it's
But the image is rendered already. Oh, it has a problem with that. That's interesting. Because the OG image, I'm not using your OG image thing, by the way. I'm just making it.
That's why. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's why, exactly. Anyways, we are over time. I just wanted to show how fun it is and all the crazy stuff you're potentially able to do with Cloudinary.
And it's the most interesting parts is the automation aspect of it, enhancing your workflow and really getting
even touched on like all the media flow stuff you guys have. Like there's so much extra.
Yeah. A lot of stuff.
Like as a DevRel for that company, you have endless stuff to talk about. It's almost too much.
Yeah. That's the challenge. It's there's so much that I want to talk about in such a little time. So
exactly, and we all know that. Thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
So pretty much everywhere at Colby Fayock.
Nice.
Pretty simple. I'm the only one, so
should be able to find exactly. Same for me. Yeah. I can basically just use my name. That works pretty well. And so for I have a few tiny SDAs to do. CTAs, sorry. You can actually join us on Slack at hygraph.com if you feel like you want to try this stuff. And we're Cloudinary partners. So if you potentially want to use all that, you can come through our partners or actually on Slack and just show us what you're building with all this crazy stuff. Well, we talked about the docs already. There's lots of stuff there. Yeah, that's it. And one final thing. Everything you saw today, also in Cloudinary, is free account. Like all the things work for free. That's pretty crazy, right? Yeah, I think that's all the CTAs done. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's early for you.
Yeah, no worries.
You're just having your breakfast before the stream.
It's always a pleasure to, hop on a call with you. And
awesome, man. Thanks so much. And hopefully see you soon. Maybe in person at once. Let's see.
Yeah, let's hope.
All right. Cheers, dude.
Yeah.
Bye.
Cheers. Thanks.